A stone coffin, nearly 10 feet long. Inside it, according to the story, was a human skeleton standing more than 8.5 feet tall. Just hours after it was found deep in Vietnam's Trong Son Mountains, the entire area was reportedly sealed off. After that, the coffin disappeared from the public record. No clear photos, no official explanation, nothing. Then there's the strange object off the coast of Phu Quoc. Fishermen described it as a dark metal structure that gave off a faint light. It supposedly never rusted, and its magnetic field was strong enough to make compasses spin out of control. Deep beneath Ba Vi Mountain, a drilling team was said to have hit something that didn't feel like rock, and in Vietnam's central highlands, workers reportedly uncovered a massive stone sphere buried underground. The strangest part? People claimed it made a low humming sound whenever heavy rain soaked the ground. So what are we dealing with here? Real discoveries? Local legends? Or stories that grew more dramatic every time someone repeated them? The truth is, there isn't enough solid evidence to say for sure. Still, these 5 stories raise some uncomfortable questions. Why were these objects always found in places that were almost impossible to verify? Why did the records supposedly disappear? And why did the people who saw them suddenly stop talking? Let's start off the coast of Phu Quoc, where fishermen have whispered for years about something they call the Demon Eye. Off the southwest coast of Vietnam, not far from Dinh Cao Cape, there's a story that local fishermen have been passing around for years. They talk about a strange object sitting on the seafloor. From a distance, they say it gives off a faint glow, almost like a giant eye staring up through the water. Some fishermen claim that whenever their boats get too close, their compasses stop making sense. Others say their sonar suddenly loses the bottom, as if something is blocking the signal. Then came a story from June 2009. According to the account, a team of divers surveying a reef came across something they never expected. It wasn't a rock. It wasn't part of a shipwreck either. They described it as a huge black metal structure shaped like a cut pyramid, covered in old marine growth and measuring more than 30 feet across. The object was said to give off a faint light. It felt slightly warm, even underwater, and people claimed it interfered with the magnetic field around it for dozens of yards. Naturally, the theory started almost immediately. Some believed it was part of an ancient underwater control station. Others thought it might have been some kind of navigation device. The more imaginative ideas even suggested it could be leftover technology from a civilization that existed long before recorded history. But here's where the story gets tricky. There are no original photos, no confirmed coordinates, no names of the dive team, and no public survey reports that back up any of these claims. The story becomes even stranger because people say the photos and information disappeared from the internet not long after they were shared. Those who supposedly talked about the discovery also went quiet. Now, silence by itself doesn't prove a cover-up. It never does. What it does leave us with is one simple question. Was the Demon Eye ever a real object waiting beneath the sea? Was it just an unusual natural formation that people misunderstood? Or has this become one of those stories that gets a little bigger every time it's told? Ba Vi isn't just another mountain in Vietnam. For generations, people have connected it with old legends, sacred energy, and stories about hidden places deep beneath the mountain. Whether those stories are true or not, they've been around for a very long time. Then came a report from 2013. According to the story, a geological survey team was drilling more than 300 feet underground when the drill suddenly hit something unexpected. It wasn't supposed to be there. People involved claimed the magnetic equipment immediately started acting strangely. Heat sensors also picked up an unusually warm area buried inside the rock. One technician reportedly said it didn't feel like natural stone at all. He thought it looked more like something that had been placed there a very long time ago. That's where the mystery really begins. There are no names of the survey team, no exact drilling location, no technical reports, nothing that lets anyone independently verify what supposedly happened. The project was also said to have stopped without warning. According to the story, the data was collected, taken away, and never publicly explained. From there, people filled in the blanks with their own theories. Some believe it was an ancient seal hiding something beneath the mountain. Others think it could be the remains of a civilization that existed long before recorded history. Those ideas definitely make the story more exciting, but they also raise an important question. If something unusual was actually discovered, there should be evidence. Geological surveys leave records. Magnetic readings can be measured. A cancelled project usually leaves paperwork or witnesses who can confirm what happened. Until something like that becomes public, this story stays exactly where it's been for years. Somewhere between local legend, unanswered questions, and a discovery that no one has been able to prove. Back in May 1990, people living near the forests between Than Hoa and Nghe An reportedly came across a bronze drum, unlike anything they'd seen before. It wasn't just another ancient artifact. The drum was said to stand over 30 inches tall, nearly 3 feet across, and weigh close to 440 pounds. Across its surface were carved images of the sun, birds, and an unusual circle with 8 deep rays that some people thought looked almost like a star map. Then came the part that really caught people's attention. They said if you tapped the center of the drum, it produced a deep, powerful sound that seemed to echo through the ground instead of simply fading into the air. Most archaeologists would simply identify it as a Dongsun bronze drum, but not everyone stopped there. Some believed it wasn't just a ceremonial instrument. They wondered if it had another purpose. Maybe it was an ancient signaling device. Maybe it used sound in ways people today don't fully understand. Some even suggested it was built to connect ancient people with the heavens. Those ideas are fascinating. The story also claims that a few people who meditated near the drum described hearing a slow rhythm, almost like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Of course, experiences like that are personal. They aren't scientific proof, and they don't tell us what the drum was actually designed to do. Eventually, the artifact was reportedly moved to a museum, but the story never says which museum, where the excavation records are, or whether experts ever published a full analysis of it. To me, that's the most interesting part, not the theories about lost civilizations or messages from the sky. What's truly impressive is the craftsmanship, the detailed carvings, the precision, the way such a massive bronze object could produce such a unique sound. If this artifact really exists exactly as the story describes, the real answers won't come from legends. They'll come from archaeology, metallurgy, and careful scientific study. And honestly, that might be even more fascinating than the mystery itself. Out of every story on this list, this one is probably the hardest to ignore, but it's also the one with the biggest problem. The timeline doesn't even match. One version says the stone coffin was discovered in 1987. Another says it happened back in late 1972 during a survey deep in the Trong Son Mountains. Right away, that raises questions. Still, here's how the story goes. A group of workers exploring a remote mountain area reportedly came across a natural cave nearly 3,000 feet above sea level. Inside was a massive stone coffin carved from a single block of green stone. It was almost 10 feet long and covered with detailed carvings. What's strange is that the area supposedly showed no signs of any ancient settlement, making the coffin seem completely out of place. Then, they opened it. According to the story, inside was a complete human skeleton standing more than 8.5 feet tall. The skull was unusually large, and the arm and leg bones were said to be about 40% longer than those of a modern human. A basic examination reportedly suggested the remains could be more than 2,500 years old. Then, everything changed. That same night, a military unit supposedly arrived. The site was sealed off, and the people who found the coffin were told not to talk about what they had seen. After that, the trail simply disappeared. No photographs, no excavation records, no bone samples, no official reports, nothing that anyone can independently verify. Over time, people started filling in the missing pieces themselves. Some believed the skeleton belonged to a race of giants that once lived somewhere in Southeast Asia. Others connected it to old Vietnamese legends about heavenly beings and ancient people who were said to live in the Trong Son Mountains. It's a fascinating story, but without physical evidence, that's all it is, a story. There are no published measurements, no carbon dating results, no confirmed location, no named witnesses. and no military documents supporting what supposedly happened. And the conflicting dates only make it even harder to know what, if anything, actually took place. So maybe the biggest question isn't whether giants once walked these mountains. Maybe it's much simpler than that. Did this stone coffin ever exist at all? Until someone can answer that with real evidence, the mystery remains exactly that, a mystery. This is probably the strangest story on the entire list. It starts in 1995, during the construction of a power project just outside the city of Pliku. According to the story, workers were drilling deep into the ground when the drill suddenly slammed into something incredibly hard. The impact was strong enough to destroy the equipment. At first, everyone assumed it was just solid bedrock, but as they dug farther, they realized it wasn't. Slowly, a nearly perfect stone sphere began to appear beneath the soil. The object was said to be about 13 feet across, buried nearly 100 feet underground, and so heavy that people estimated it weighed hundreds of tons. What really caught everyone's attention was its surface. It was covered with spiral patterns that looked almost like the iris of a giant eye. Even stranger, the stone reportedly felt unusually cold, despite the warm ground surrounding it. That's how it supposedly got its name, the Eye of the Sky. But the story doesn't stop there. People claimed that whenever heavy rain soaked into the ground, the pressure changed and the sphere began making a deep humming sound. Some described it as a slow vibration. Others said it sounded almost like something breathing beneath the earth. Not long after the discovery, a survey team from Hanoi was reportedly sent to inspect the site. Then, according to the story, everything changed. The construction area was fenced off. Work stopped. The workers were told not to discuss what they had seen. From that point on, the rumors only became stranger. Some people claimed the plants around the site started growing unusually fast. Others said electronic equipment behaved unpredictably. There were even stories about workers suffering from insomnia or sleepwalking after spending time near the object. Those details definitely make the story feel unsettling. But none of them come with medical records, geological studies, electromagnetic measurements, or official construction documents that anyone can examine today. And that's important. Without evidence, it's impossible to know which parts of the story actually happened and which parts grew over time. If the Eye of the Sky is really still buried beneath Pliku, there should be something that points to it. Construction records, survey maps, independent witnesses, anything that can be checked. Until something like that surfaces, this remains exactly what it has always been. One of Vietnam's most fascinating mystery zones that's impossible to confirm, but just as impossible to completely forget. When you step back and look at all 5 stories, something starts to stand out. The demon eye beneath the waters of Phu Quoc. The strange object hidden under Bavi Mountain. The mysterious bronze drum. The giant stone coffin in the Trong Son Mountains. And the massive stone sphere known as the Eye of the Sky. They all follow almost the same pattern. First, someone claims to discover something extraordinary. Then come the strange details. A glowing object, a strange sound, unusual heat, magnetic interference, a skeleton that's far bigger than expected, and finally, the same ending. The site is supposedly sealed off. The records disappear. The witnesses stop talking. That's exactly what makes stories like these so fascinating, but it's also what makes them so difficult to prove. The truth is, missing evidence doesn't automatically mean someone is hiding something. A missing report could have a simple explanation. A strange reading on a machine could be caused by natural conditions. An unusual sound might come from the geology of the area. And stories passed from one person to another can change a lot over the years. That doesn't mean every one of these stories is false. It just means we should separate 3 different things. What people say happened, what can actually be supported by evidence, and what remains nothing more than speculation. To me, that's the best way to approach mysteries like these. Stay curious, ask questions, but don't let curiosity replace evidence. Because sometimes the real story isn't the most unbelievable one. It's the one that can actually be proven. After looking at all 5 stories, I think one thing is clear. These objects could be real discoveries that were never fully studied. They could be natural formations that people misunderstood. They could be old local legends that grew bigger over time. Or maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. The reality is, there isn't enough solid evidence to prove that Vietnam is hiding the remains of some forgotten civilization or advanced ancient technology. But honestly, that's part of what makes these stories so interesting. People have always been drawn to mysteries. We naturally want answers, especially when those answers seem just out of reach. So now I'm curious about what you think. Which story stood out to you the most? Was it the demon eye beneath the waters of Phu Quoc? The strange object buried under Ba Vi Mountain? The mysterious bronze drum? The giant stone coffin hidden in the Trong Son Mountains? Or the massive stone sphere known as the Eye of the Sky? Let me know in the comments. But don't just tell me which story you believe. Tell me what kind of evidence would actually convince you. Would it be original photographs, official survey records, scientific test results, or multiple independent witnesses telling the same story? I'd really like to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoy exploring mysteries while separating facts from speculation, make sure to subscribe to The Disaster Beneath. We've got many more incredible stories coming up, and together we'll keep asking the same important question: what's really true and what's simply become a legend over time?